2,500 escort motorcycles. For the National Police. In Burkina Faso. It sounds administrative. Equipment. Logistics. A line and a budget. Then something moved that no one expected. Truck drivers stopped counting illegal checkpoint. The question nobody asks about security is not about weapons. It is about arrival. For years, when a village screamed into a phone, the clock became an enemy. A call traveled. A report sat. A vehicle waited for fuel. Fuel waited for approval. Burkina Faso did something that looked ordinary to anyone skimming headlines, something so small it could be dismissed with a shrug, yet so powerful it bent reality on the ground. Thousands of motorcycles rolled into the hands of the National Police. Police began arriving while events were still unfolding. Not afterward. Not when smoke had settled and stories had hardened into memory. But during the crisis itself. Villagers noticed it first. Engines arrived sooner than expected. Officers appeared, before explanations were fully formed. Time felt compressed, almost unnatural. The shock was not the machines or the uniforms. It was the pace. For the first time in years, insecurity could no longer rely on delay. This changed behavior before, it changed statistics. People stopped assuming nothing would happen. Criminals stopped assuming they had hours. When time collapses, confidence changes sides. Response time stopped being a weakness and became a weapon. And in doing so, it exposed a lie that had dominated every conversation about security for decades. The problem had never been money or training or foreign assistance. Those things had not changed. Movement had the system stopped heeding to perfect and started acting in real time. That's when the question stopped being about efficiency and became about geography. Because when they collapses, distance collapses with it. Places once labeled too remote, too disconnected, too dangerous suddenly text close. People did not see a policy shift. Felt temporal one. Life began to move differently. Villages that had lived outside the state shadow for generations now felt its presence. Roads that once marked the edge of authority became routine patrol routes. Dirt paths, border corridors, market tracks that had never appeared in security plans now carried regular movement. For years, distance protected danger, not because danger was strong, but because it was ignored. Entire regions existed outside enforcement simply because vehicles could not survive the terrain or move fast enough. Authority ended where asphalt ended. That line disappeared. As mobility increased, the territory itself felt different. Communities stopped seeing themselves as forgotten. Traders no longer felt each journey was a wager with death. Uniformed patrols routine, and routine is how authority becomes real. But the shift did more than protect civilians. It disrupted the invisible systems that had quietly controlled the countryside. Smuggling networks had relied on geography as camouflage. Armed groups treated border zones like open doors. They did not need superior firepower.
They only needed space the state could not enter. Once that space vanished, their advantage vanished with it. Paths once invisible became watched. Routes once safe became uncertain. Territory stopped being armor. The logic flipped. Instead of the state avoiding remote areas, criminals began avoiding them. This was the moment change stopped being symbolic and became strategic. Control was no longer about buildings or borders. It was about movement through space. Every patrol rewrote the meaning of the land. Every reclaimed route sent a message. This is no longer empty. And people noticed. When communities saw consistent presence, they stopped whispering. It broke the habit of waiting. For years, decisions moved through invisible chains, approvals, advisories, external schedules. Even when threats were clear, action paused. Now, with internal mobility restored, units move when intelligence arrives, not when permission does. Decisions are made locally. Resources are used immediately. Time is reclaimed. This shift is not loud, but it is radical. It changes who controls space, who controls time, who defines reality. A country that responds instantly stops being supervised. It stops being dependent. That is why the change feels larger than machines. It rewrites authority. The youth feel it first. They do not see motorcycles. They see proof that the old narrative is ending. The story that Africa must wait, must be guided, must be supervised. That story is losing its audience. This is not rejection of cooperation. It is rejection of control. Because when protection is internal, influence from outside weakens. When security is yours, the future is yours. And then comes the deepest shift of all, identity. When a nation stops waiting, it sees itself differently. Generations were taught that progress arrives from outside, that order must be imported, that solutions require approval. That belief shaped psychology as much as policy. What happened here disrupted that mental structure. The question stopped being, who will save us, and became, what can we build? The youth recognize it immediately. They are tired of watching dignity negotiated, tired of seeing their continent treated as a project instead of a power. Now they see motion, authority without apology, sovereignty without translation. And that image reshapes how the future is imagined, not delayed, not conditional, owned. That is why these machines matter, not because of metal or engines, but because they represent movement without dependence. They prove systems can be rebuilt from within, that solutions do not need validation. That weakness is not a requirement for acceptance. No speech declared a revolution.
That is why these machines matter. Not because of metal or engines, but because they represent movement without dependence. They prove systems can be rebuilt from within. That solutions do not need validation. That weakness is not a requirement.
The image hits you first. 2,000 engines, gleaming under the same sky, lined up not for parade, but for purpose. This is not decoration. This is not ceremony. This is infrastructure dressed in steel and rubber, waiting to move. You don't accidentally acquire 2,000 motorcycles. You plan it, you fund it, you coordinate it. And when you see them standing there, silent but ready, you realize something has shifted beneath the surface. Captain Ibrahim Traoré handed over the keys on a Monday morning in February. Not a symbolic gesture, not a photo opportunity, a mission. Those keys unlocked more than ignition systems, they unlocked a new layer of national capability. Yento, in Gulmana, that word means security. Now it means motorcycles cutting through narrow alleys, reaching what was once unreachable, responding before panic sets in. This is mobility weaponized against delay. The president didn't just speak, he equipped. And when he placed those keys into the hands of the Minister of Security, he placed trust into a system he is rebuilding from the inside out. And the final question remains, echoing beyond borders. If one nation can rewrite its future this way, who moves next? Please like, subscribe, and comment your thought.